It's been a couple of days, probably, since you've all come back from your training at this point. The head captain has just made sure to send you all a note saying that there's no updates yet, and that you've got enough time to figure out anything else you need to do before the final confrontation. I'd like everyone to roll a d12, and Tay rolls 2. For order, as usual. Tay and Nozomi, please re-roll your 3s. Okay, that works. Who do you want the 12 and 6 to be?
12 for Yasha, 6 for Shigure.
Alright. I guess we'll go in that order then. Starting off with Yasha then going to Shigure, Nozomi, and Seijo.
I assume we're in our barracks, not in...
Yeah, you're back
not in the middle.
Yeah, you're all back in your places, so feel free to just move back as necessary. Yasha's also a bit above 6 HP by now, but it's not doesn't really matter.
Technically, it would be there.
Yeah, fair. You all... So, in that case then... Yasha, first then, you find yourself with plenty of free time on your hands to do whatever you wish at this point in time. What do you wish to do?
Yasha, earliest thing in the morning
Mm-hmm.
is he's gonna leave a letter on his captain's door, outside his captain's door, that he will be unavailable for an undetermined amount of time.
Okay.
And then he will set off towards the barracks of the 11th Division.
Alright. As you're walking there, roll a d12 just to open it and see if anything happens, I guess. 11, alright, I'm opening docs to check something quickly. I just need to find the right one. There we go. As you're on your way to the 11th then, you pass Ikaku and Yumichika around sort of this point or so. Assuming you're heading through the back ways rather than the main roads.
Yeah. I mean, he would go roof-wise.
Sorry?
He would go along the roofs.
Yeah. You pass them heading on the roofs the other way. In that case. So you pass them without really noticing, but then you sort of hear, hey! And if you chose to turn around, you would see the two of them sort of standing there, sort of looking back at you.
He would brake, but because of his determined path, he would essentially have to force the brake and essentially just dump down on whatever roof is underneath him.
Yeah, so no one's particularly what's the word? No one's particularly surprised at the frequency of people jumping over the roofs, so it's not really remarks on by anybody below. The two of them flashed up over and sort of, it's been a while since I've seen you, Otagisu-san.
Well, maybe so. No, in some sense. No time has always passed.
In some sense, I suppose, yes. Meanwhile, Ikaku's sort of, how have you been holding up since our last spar?
Well, in regards to that, he gives a smirk and lets out a slight level of bloodlust. Let's just say that a part of me that I believe to be dead has reawakened.
Well, that sounds like an interesting journey.
I was just about to head to your barracks, as a matter of fact.
Looking for someone specific? Yumichiko and I are unavailable.
He bears a grin, clutching his sword slightly as he turns around to head back to continue heading towards the 11th barrack, turning his head, going, "Well, this monster needs to sharpen its fangs in the prey it has wanted to hunt for a long time."
You don't see it, but the two of them exchange a glance and sort of... But you don't see their reaction, but you sense something behind you spiritually that sort of seems to suggest as though they took off rather quickly. Continue on your way then. And you, as you approach the barracks themselves, you see Fukigen walking out. Here for a spar?
Indeed, no. I'd say it's more than a spar, but rather a test of strength I'm after, Sakamoto-san.
I suppose your current level, that would only mean... So looks back over his shoulder and sort of...
He will look Sakamoto in the eye and go, "Well, you see, when I left the 11th, I had always wanted to test myself against Captain Kuruyashiki. But since he's not here anymore, well, you can probably guess the rest."
I can. And I'm glad I'm leaving. And with that, he walks past you, simply resting a hand on your shoulder as he does so. Don't go destroying everything now, will you?
I'm sorry, but a monster can't really abide to such rules.
Yes, well, he sort of, at this point, at that sort of, he sort of turns back around and sort of rests his hand on your shoulder again, a bit more forcefully this time. We are still rebuilding Seirete. It would be a shame to add to the workload.
Yasha would kind of give like a nonchalant kind of shrug, but Fuken would probably recognize that his demeanor is actually kind of similar to hundreds of years ago.
Well, alright then. And now he heads off himself as well. You head into the barracks. How well do you remember it, do you think?
I mean, he was there for a spar just a while ago.
Yeah, but like that was just, you just headed into the training hall. I meant like the specific layout.
Yeah, he's heading into the training hall.
Okay.
And then at the top of his lungs will shout out that he's here for a challenge.
Every single member of the 11th inside looks at you, sort of gauges your power level, and then one of them, and then the two who are currently fighting go back to their bout, while a face, or voice rather, that you can't place sort of pipes up from the back. I don't think any of us are going to offer you a challenge.
Yasha will kind of crack his neck and go, "As a former member of your division, I seek to test the strength of the one who bested the former captain."
At these words, the two who are currently fighting both stop their swings in midair. Their blades barely an inch apart, and just. And the person who cut the horse says, "Would you care to repeat that, laddie?" From what you can tell, it seems to be a much older Soul Reaper who's.
Yeah. Yasha will draw his sword and point it forward as a meets a challenge, and go. Well, there is only one here I believe to have had the strength to once best the great Captain Kuruyashiki. And this monster seeks to sharpen its fangs against the very best.
The two who were fighting before.
He will also fully unleash his bloodthirst intent in this moment.
The closest person, the closest people to you start to sort of almost be pushed to the floor by the level of spiritual energy you're outputting. The two in the middle, by a long-standing tradition of the 11th in situations like these, sheath their swords about each other, and then those two hurry out of the room to go and inform the captain of the situation. Everyone else simultaneously wants to watch and see what happens, but is also understandably scared. It's only a moment or two later when you feel a similar spike of bloodlust from somewhere else within the building, and the two Shinigami that were fighting before come back into the room a little hastily and take their place sort of behind the others who have sort of accumulated in the time. Walking into the room is the monstrous form of the captain of the 11th Division, his frame taking up almost the entire doorway. He sort of gives you a look up and down. Well, there's a face I don't remember.
Well, I was once a member of the division under Captain Kuruyashiki, and I seek to test how the new Kenpachi is compared to him.
Well, I'll give you the same chance I give everyone. He steps into the middle of the room. With every step, the Shinigami around the edge of the room sort of tried to push back further into the walls and sort of land one strike on me.
Oh no. Yasha will interrupt him and pick up his, hold his sword in front of him. I'm not here for a simple spar. Pankar. Kyoki Okufuri.
As you say the first word of this, the captain, realizing what you're about to do, and having grown slightly fond of his barracks, grabs you by the face, and just with a sonic boom, just throws you out the door.
As it does the throwing motion, Yasha will use his hollow and fused strength to grab the captain and drag him with him.
He was planning to go after you anyway. But don't worry about that. So as he pushes you out of the barracks to avoid the explosion of released power from taking the roof off, you would grab him and pull him with you by the force of his own strike, essentially. And as you're flying out of the door, the release sort of begins. And that's where we cut away. Shigure then?
Shigure will kind of sneak around a bit shadily around his barracks and dig out a small box that he has stored away underneath the barracks.
Okay.
Pulling it out is a pair of sunglasses from the world of the living, a face mask, and a annoyingly stupid hat.
What are you doing?
He will put this on as a way to hide himself, disguise himself as he heads sneakily and shadily across the barracks back alley.
Roll a
Anyways,
d12 disadvantage. Six. Okay. You've done this before. So while the general populace of this area might not know who you are, your division definitely does. One of them waves cheerfully at you on your way out.
He will fakely with a fake accent of a different branch of the spiritual world go. Excuse me, I have no idea who you are. And then quickly continue.
You hear a sigh from behind you, but nothing else at the moment. Where do you wish to head then?
To the back alleys of the fourth.
The fourth, alright. Who do you wish to find there, if anybody?
I will head to a wall that I know is part of the lieutenant's quarters, and knocking at the particular pattern.
After a minute or two, the lieutenant of the fourth sort of slips out. What are you doing here?
He will take off the sunglasses and go. Have you got the goods?
Well, wouldn't be much of a lieutenant if I didn't.
Good.
What have you got in exchange?
He pulls open, like he pulls into his inside like what essentially is the shirt pocket.
Yeah.
And pull out a very, very large stack of papers.
There's the usual raised eyebrow at how you can fit so many papers into a single small pocket.
It is an entire list of every single student currently at the academy and a assessment of their aptitude for Kaido.
Kione sort of takes the papers off you and looks at the top for you and sort of, this will be helpful. Save the captain a lot of time. Which I suspect was your intention. She pulls out a single sheet of paper looking rather small compared to the large stack you gave her in exchange. And so unfolding it quickly to make sure it's the right one, she then folds it back up and passes it over to you.
He will put it inside his like pocket again.
Yep.
Give a nod, put on the sunglasses, and stealthily try to make his way into the back alleys where he isn't seen before reading it.
Kione just shakes her head and goes back inside. Alright. What do you wish to do now then?
What is on the paper?
Roll a d12. Ooh, unlucky. You suspect that at least one of these items must come from Kisuke Urahara.
Okay.
While the second has to come from Mayuri Kuratsuchi.
Okay.
Or someone within his division. The rest of them, however, you seem to be in luck, as it's quite likely that people who you're already planning to visit might have them on hand already.
Okay. What items are there in general?
I hadn't thought this far ahead. I know you gave me. I know you told me to. I know you said you were giving me a list, but I was just like, okay. I didn't think you. I thought we were just going to keep it generalistic. I don't. I can't. I can't apply. I can't. I can't apply things to canon characters that well.
Well, in that case, considering the location of where they currently are,
Mm-hmm.
it would probably be. I mean, the closest would probably be. Where is? I need a map quickly. Give me a second. Right. So that's currently where is. Oh, right, it's over there. That's why I couldn't see it. Considering the current location, then it would probably be the closest is probably to head to the 13th from here.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess you should head over there then.
Yes.
Roll a d12 as you head over then. And later then. You make your way to the 13th barracks, not meeting anybody of note on the way. Once you arrive there, is there anyone you wish to speak to specifically?
I make my presence known and request a short little bantering exchange with if the captain is available.
You're told that the captain is very busy right now. But
I make it very clear to emphasize that I hope she's available.
You hear a sigh and sort of, all right, let her know. It's a minute or two waiting outside before the lieutenant comes back and sort of lets you go in. The captain's sitting behind her desk and looks up as you enter. Well, I hope this is important, judging by your use of such a phrase.
I pull out a small paper bag
Mm-hmm.
and slide it over to the captain.
All right. She. Where did I have this information? Yeah, I had it here. That was it. I gotta scroll back up to find it again. Is it further than this? Yeah, here we are. She opens the bag and sort of quickly shuts it, and with a speed that is perhaps not. It's perhaps well expected for someone of her station isn't befitting the fact that she's currently sitting at her desk in the middle of paperwork. The bag simply vanishes, and you hear a clatter as it sort of gets thrown inside the desk. Well, with such a bribe, I assume you wanted something important.
Well, it just so happens that I have a need for, let's say, some more knowledge about the current, shall we say, excursion of Ambassador Seaweed in order to satisfy a certain black cat's desire.
She sort of pretends to think very, very heavily. Well, he has been around his house for the past few weeks. You know how it is. It's either there or the barracks. I doubt that your cat would have much trouble in finding him.
I see. Would you mind enlightening me if he's still, displeasured at the at the let's call it um, let's call it lacking tact of not being quote unquote the fastest.
She sort of thinks for a moment. Now that you mention it, I'm not quite sure if that's true anymore, given how long it's been and how far he's come. That said, I do believe he would at least pretend to be annoyed in such a situation. So the end result's the same either way.
Well, I shall forward your message then.
All of it, or just part of it?
The important parts.
Good to hear. By the way, she sort of thinks from... I was told about the request you gave to the head captain. About reinstating your nobility. What reason did you have for doing this, though?
Well, I suppose our situations are a bit different, but... Well... Back in your time in the Rukon districts, did you ever think that if you had the opportunity to prevent someone dear to you to be in that situation, would you not take it?
She sort of stiffens a bit, sort of. I think you know me well enough by now to know the answer to that question already.
Well, I suppose I can rephrase it that I believe to some extent that my state of mind for that request is similar to that of your sisters back then.
I see. Who would you be saving?
Well, of course, my sister herself, but also, well, the future, hopefully.
Well, the future
I wish to take in and teach our arts to those who live in the Rukon without the aptitude to become soul reapers themselves, but who have the aptitude, at least to a rudimentary level, control spiritual power. There's no place for them unless they can become full-fledged soul reapers currently.
But giving them the ability to defend themselves without our help, at least to some extent. She considers this for a moment. Why, I think I'd join in helping you if such a measure was approved by the head captain.
Well, I suppose your position in particular would be quite a positive vouch for my case.
Indeed. I do believe I would fully agree with it in this situation. She sort of thinks for a moment. Is that all?
Yes, that would be all. I have a multitude of other errands, so as much as I'd like to share gossip about people around the barracks, I believe that was all I had in mind for now.
Very well. Thank you for the, she sort of taps her desk. Anyway. Bye. She sort of looks at you as just waiting for you to leave.
He will stand up, put on the sunglasses again, and head off.
You hear a sigh from behind you upon seeing this.
He will head to the 12th after.
As you are about to walk through the gate to the 12th, I want you to roll a dodge against Yasuhide.
Okay, which is that again?
Click yourself, dodge, click
All
on.
right. Yeah, what did you expect? He has no evasion.
One moment the skies seem calm. A moment later you hear a approaching, and you look up just in time to get a fistful of sword, or a face full of sword rather. Thankfully, it's the side of the blade rather than the edge. As Yasuhide knocks you backwards into a distant building, cratering the ground where he lands.
As I'm launched into the air, I will use a what's the name of it again? It is the Tsuriboshi to catch me.
Alright. You do so with a little issue. As you're recovering from this blow, you see Yasuhide stand up within the crater he's made, block an attack from the captain of the 11th Division, punch him in the face, grab his arm, throw him southwards and jump after him, laughing. We will cut away for now. On to Nozomi. You, like the others, have got plenty of time in which to do most anything you might wish to. You have heard that around now will be the time that they're holding sort of follow-up sessions for those who are using Shunko to sort of determine how well they've become accustomed to using it. You may wish to attend that if, for lack of anything else that you might have in mind. They'll be holding multiple of them, so if you wish to do something else first, you would be able to.
That sounds quite nice.
Alright. If you want to head over to the second, then?
Yes.
Alright. You would find your way over there. Upon entering, you see Sofo and Yoriichi sparring. Both of them using Shunko. Sophone seems to be using a version augmented with wind, flying around the place a lot faster than you'd expect her to be able to, even with her skill. She's landing blows against Yoriichi that seem to become consecutively stronger each one she lands. Yoriichi, on the other hand, seems to be flickering with lightning. And while she attacks Swophone far less than she is attacked, she seems to dash backwards before charging forwards for each attack, and thus each one landed is strengthened in kind. This goes back and forth for a while, and a few more people arrive for the same reasons as yourself. Once enough of them arrive, the two combatants finally begin to notice the crowd and sort of stop dead in their tracks. I suppose we did have a class now, didn't we? And Sophone sort of, yes, we did. They drop out of Shunko and make their way over to the group of people who are around you. You'd say there's probably about 10 of them, including yourself. Well, I suppose you will come here for the Shunko follow-up. We'll go through each of you in turn and see how you're coming along and see what we can do to further help you improve. They make their way through a few people before they get to you. One of them seems to be rather lacking, as if they haven't trained sufficiently while they've been away, but another seems to be very adept at it by this point, and after a moment of deliberation they suggest very quietly, although you might be able to hear with your feline sense of hearing, perhaps trying to adds sort of ice aspected energy to the Shunko might be a benefit. They sort of take a moment to sort of go over how one might do that. Essentially, as if casting a sort of low level ice aspected Hado at the same time as the Shunko, but instead of letting the Hado go, you just build the energy up and then let it flow into your limbs in the same way that you would the regular Shunko. They go for a few more people. One of them's been training hard, but their body isn't ready to withstand the strain yet, so they're told to take it easy. While another seems to have their Zanpakuto spirit lean more towards light, and as such, they're told to take advantage of that. They then get to you. Well, Nozomi, I gather you've been putting your skills in practice in the field as well.
That would be quite accurate.
How about you show us? Roll 4d12, just for one for each stat. I'll just add your stats to the rolls. Yeah, that works pretty well. Despite not having done much Zanjutsu within Shunko itself, once you enter the state, you find that such attacks come much more naturally to you after your time spent in Bankai. While your physical attacks without your blade is still lacking, your speed and Kido mastery more than make up for that small deficit. And Richie sort of nods to herself, looking pleased at your progress. Sofun considers, ordinarily I might suggest a certain element, but perhaps, given your flexibility, you might wish to focus on one yourself to start with. Then, if you wish to look at the Shunko page on World Anvil, you will notice the 8 elements. You have to choose one right now. However, due to Nozomi's elementally unaspected weapon, you would be able to choose one of these of your own accord. And still use it during Bankai as well.
Nice.
You don't have to make a choice right now, however, I would say that once Nozomi herself has made a choice, they would essentially sort of walk you through it and sort of make sure that you've got it down. If you want to do this, if you want to choose now, we can. Otherwise, if you want a bit of time, I can move on to Seijo and come back to you right afterwards.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll skip ahead to Seijo then.
Hello.
Hello. After your time in Bankai, you seem to be a lot more communicative with your Zanpakuto spirit, and your time in the kitchen seems to be bearing bread, so to speak. You find it a lot easier to make things that you previously might have struggled with, such as the different technique of the croissant. And you're quite pleased with your progress on that front. You do remember, however, that the head of the bakery in Karakura Town said that he might have some plans for next time you came back. And in doing so, you might want to head to the world of living.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
All right. Let's go to here. And here. And where is he? He is here. You arrive in Karakura Town as usual, and make your way to the bakery. As you enter the room, you see even more customers than before. Rather than just sort of the quietness of the first few visits or sort of 2 or 3 people last time, now it seems to be relatively full. You can see he's sort of upsized this a little bit as well. There's now a couple of tables where people can eat things at the back rather than having to always eat them outside. And while you can't quite tell that something's changed just by looking at it, you can sense that there's bread cooking in the back right now, while he's out front, which might suggest that he's been able to hire someone to help him bake more rather than doing it all himself.
I'll wait my turn to go to the counter, I suppose, if there's a queue or anything.
Yeah, he's serving other people at the moment, but as he sees you, he sort of nods and smiles, and then continues serving the people in front of you. It's around lunchtime near this point, and he sort of once it's your turn, he sort of says, "Ah, hello again. Are you here to buy anything, or do you wish to do some more experimentation?"
Got anything new?
Not at the moment, however, I did have a thought from before. He sort of thinks for a moment, and as he's thinking, some more customers come in and sort of, so, would you be happy? Would you be okay waiting just, over there, and I'll come over to you in a bit, once I've served these people.
Alright.
He sells an assortment of pastries to the people, the family that's walked in, and as they're leaving, he sort of calls at the back, "Fubuki, would you mind taking care of the shop?" And you hear a sort of a young woman's voice calling back, "All right, let me finish up with this batch." And he comes around from the counter. "Well, I've been looking into some things around town myself, and perhaps you'd care to join me for lunch."
Sure.
You make your way out of the building. As you do so, roll a d12. Okay, you don't notice anything. You're too focused on looking out of the door to look back. He sort of takes you through to around the corner to a rather large building, almost like a shopping mall, although you might not be sure what one is in character. And you make your way sort of through the building. It's almost overwhelming for you, the amount of shops and chatter and here and there smells of different types of food, some completely unrelated to bread that you've never heard of before. Part of you wonders how well some of these might go with bread, and part of you wonders how badly some of them might go with bread. About halfway in, you sort of... here we are. Roll d12 for reading of different languages.
Let's go. 111.
Close
That's
enough. You surmise that this is not Japanese, but beyond that, you have no idea whether this is English, French, Spanish, Italian, German, Dutch, or any other language indeed that is sourced from outside the country. As the proprietor of the bakery opens the door for you, however, you're hit with what is most certainly the smell of baking. With also cheese and tomato and other things you hadn't quite thought of before. He sort of waves to one of the waiters and takes a seat near the window at a table for 2 people, motioning for you to sit down with him.
Shall do that
then. He as the waiter comes over, he's sort of like, "I could explain what this place is, but I think best if we go over the menu together." He orders a plate of dough balls, without explanation, and asks for some more time to go over the mains. He briefly explains that this is an Italian restaurant, and goes over the menu with you, which is thankfully in Japanese as well as Italian. He sort of briefly mentions that pasta is a dish that, well, might not be within his skill set or yours. Is something of an Italian favorite. However, then moves on to what he believes to be what he took you here for, which is the pizzas. He explains the process by which the dough is made and then covered in an assortment of savory toppings, before then being put into a specialist oven of sorts to be cooked exactly as intended.
Okay.
He suggests that he suggests a few different possible pizzas, including a basic margarita of just cheese and tomato toppings, sort of meat pizza of various different things such as beef, bacon, chicken, and whatnot, a Hawaiian with ham and pineapple. Roll a d12.
Okay.
You notice that when he suggests
It's
the
meant
Hawaiian,
to be a 3 that I rolled twice by accident.
okay, I'll take the 10 for later then. You see the 3, and so you still sense from the 10, rather, I guess. I may as well say you rolled twice. From the 10, you sense that he recommended the Hawaiian with a slight level of dubiousness. Does Seijo like pineapple on pizza? Do you wish to find out? The choice is yours.
Seijo has it's not a feeling he understands, but there appears to be a deep-rooted disdain for pineapple on pizza.
Good. Due to the 3, however, you're not sure if you noticed this yet.
I see.
So whether you wish to take that risk out of character is your own choice.
I mean, it's fine. He can eat pineapple, I don't care.
Okay. So he also recommends a sort of Four Seasons pizza with sort of where the pizzas divide into essentially four completely different dishes, and a sort of mushroom sort of one as well.
Unironically asks if they prepare each quarter every season. Like, does it take a year to make?
The proprietor sort of laughs a little bit and sort of, no, thankfully, otherwise we'd be waiting here quite a while. No, it's just a term of phrase. Although each one does correspond to seasonal ingredients that are produced year-round in different climates. There's a few more he lists off, and then the dough balls arrive and your order for mains is given. The proprietor orders the meat feast. Which would Seijo order?
Ham and pineapple.
The proprietor sort of gives you a side eye, but doesn't otherwise comment as of yet. But however, once the waiter leaves, have you ever had a pizza before?
No.
That would explain it then. There's a culture both in Italy and out of it that pineapple on pizza is a flavour that perhaps does not best go well with the dish.
If Italians don't like pineapple pizza, why would an Italian restaurant serve it?
Well, he sort of scratches his head. There's half of the world population seems to despise it, but half seems to believe it's the best thing since sliced bread.
There aren't many things better than sliced bread, so this better be good.
I suppose it depends on your luck, I suppose. If you're predisposed to it, it'll be the best thing you've eaten. If you're not, it'll be the worst thing you've eaten.
Well,
Although
I'm
either
sure
way,
if it's good, I'll be sharing it with my friends, whether they like it or not.
He sort of nods a bit sadly. Yes, that is rather the situation that happens. Regardless, I'll share some of mine with you as well, so you can get a feeling for some of the other types of pizzas. He picks up one of the dough balls and sort of tears it open gently, so you can see the inside. It's essentially just it is essentially just a ball of dough.
Hmm.
But the way it's been prepared shows it's sort of solid on the outside, but very sort of light on the inside.
Okay.
And there's sort of 2 small pots of what you surmise to be butter with little flecks of green in it. He sort of dips 1/2 of his dough ball into the butter and sort of motions for you to do the same to your own, to pick up one, do the same with your own.
Okay. Sergio will do that one.
The dough's very hot to the touch, but given how much you've worked in the kitchen before, it's not something that's difficult for you to deal with. You tear it open and sort of dip half into the butter. You get a sort of moderate hint of garlic along with the butter itself, and together with the heat of the dough. And while it's not bland dough, it's very simple, although very well made. And you get the feeling as though the garlic and the butter complement each other, while the dough provides a very strong base on which to support this flavor.
This is very good.
For you to have as many as you want. Garlic doesn't sit too well with me, although I love the flavor, so I deal with it anyway. He sort of almost seems to scoop a sort of almost a small ball of butter out of the thing and just sort of eat the whole thing in one go, along with the other half of his first ball. This continues for a while with the two of you just sort of eating and making small talk about different kinds of bread until the pizza arrives. I don't know, what sort of size did you expect? You've not seen the pizza before either.
I guess he would probably... I don't know, I mean, other people were eating pizzas when he arrived, right?
Yeah, they would have. I rolled d12 to see if you noticed, I guess.
Yeah.
You were too captivated by the smell to notice, and you saw these people eating just what you assumed to be bean paste pies, open top bean paste pies. You didn't make the connection between his description of a pizza and a pizza until you were given one yourself. At which point you realised it was rather silly of you to suggest that that a modified Japanese dish was being served at an Italian restaurant. It's rather large, larger than you expected. It's more than a foot across from side to side, as is the bakery owners. He sort of takes his knife and begins to sort of pry it apart into the pre-cut slices, and you might choose to do the same on yours.
Yeah.
He sort of picks up a slice that's covered in sort of a fair few pieces of meat, but also has a decent amount of cheese as well, and sort of, well, shall we? You've got a few slices. There's one that's sort of very sparse. You might have suggested the toppings might have moved around during cooking, or perhaps they weren't distributed evenly. One's got a fair bit of ham on it, one's got a lot of pineapple on it, and one's got sort of a good mix of both.
Okay.
Which one would you choose to sample first in this situation?
Well, probably sample the pineapple.
Pineapple by itself, all right.
Pick up the slice with pineapple on it.
Yeah, the slice with pineapple on it. So you pick up that one, and you say Sage doesn't like pineapple on pizza, but he's not yet aware of it, correct?
What I said was like he's never had it before, so he's not gonna know what it tastes like. All I was just saying is like it would be like an instinct that the thought of it doesn't sound good, even if he doesn't know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
But I figured if I do a check to see if I like it or not.
You can just say if you want, or you can do a check. It's your choice.
I'd rather do a roll because it's more fun.
All right. Okay. We're determining Seijo's fate here.
If I pass the check, I don't like it.
Okay.
So if I fail the check, I
Okay,
like
you
it.
better be
That
rolling a
makes more
12.
sense to me.
You better roll a 12. Is that a pass or a fail from your perspective?
I don't know. I guess it'd be like 50-50, right? So if that's a
Okay.
fail.
Okay. That's
So
a fail
he
then.
likes it.
Okay, he likes it. What a shame.
He has a conflicting experience of going, oh wow, this is pretty good, but then part of him going, why is this as good as it is? I don't understand this. It seems wrong. And then...
So as you bite into your slice of pizza, you sort of get you sort of just get the the first bite of just sort of the plain cheese and tomato, and you sort of, it's like you've reached a higher plane of understanding, and your second bite is eager. However, you get a mouthful of pineapple in the process. The god within you recoils at this abomination and heresy. You seem to sense it sort of shrinking, not physically but mentally, as if to sort of flee from this terrifying experience you thrust upon it. You're in two halves. The part of you that's been taken over by this god has the worst experience of his life. However, the farmer you once were, who's never tasted pineapple before, delights in this new sensation of fruit and craves more of it, as if it's something you've never had this before in your life, and it's never something you thought you'd ever experience. Truly a marvel of the culinary arts. Each bite you take from here on is both apprehensive and excited. With each bite, you sort of feel yourself tearing in twain as the part of you, as the newer half of you, begins to take effectively 1d4 psychic damage for every bite, while the farmer's soul within you heals the same d4 for every bite.
Nice. 5 damage.
Yeah. The proprietor of the bakery notices your sort of conflicted expressions and sort of, well, I suppose liking and hating in equal measure is better than alternatives. He sort of lifts a slice of his own meat pizza that's covered in toppings and sort of, and try this instead, and he takes sort of the plain slice of your own pizza in exchange.
Sure. I'll do a check to see if I like it more than pineapple on pizza.
God, I hope you do.
Again, if I pass, I like this more than pineapple. If I fail, I like pineapple more. Let's go.
Oh, thank God.
Okay, there we go. Balance is restored to the universe.
The multiple meats that here, some of which you'd never tasted before, do seem to get much better with the pizza. Both sides of you agree with this, and the god breathes a sigh of relief at something that's not an offense to its taste buds. However, it's just one slice, and once it's over, you go back to the pineapple again.
For a fleeting moment, he thinks, this is probably better than pineapple to share with the others, and then he goes back to the pineapple and goes, yeah, but this is still, maybe, Yeah. Maybe.
God. You heal to full from the meat slice, and then you begin to take more D4 psychic from the pineapple.
7 damage.
Oh God.
This pizza slice is more lethal than any boss than I thought.
I mean.
But wasn't it that the first one of those was damage and the next one was healing? So you're actually healing more than you're taking damage.
Yes, technically. But if you want, but you can, if you want, we can average these rolls over the slices, so it ends up being sort of 7 damage.
No. This is just for flavor. It's not really happening, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's essentially taking 1d4 psychic, but while also healing from the meal.
Yeah.
It's essentially what essentially is that he's taking 3 psychic damage, but also taking 3 healing from the same bite. However, I guess in this situation, the god is also taking psychic damage, so yes, he would be taking double damage from it because his Zanpakuto is taking damage as well.
Okay.
So yes, you would still take 7 damage.
We can just think of this as training.
Yeah, training to deal with pineapple on pizza. You finish the meal, and the proprietor sort of, well, if you've got room for a third course, I can recommend something sweet to you.
After having the sweet pineapple, is like, yeah, sure, maybe something that's not overly sweet.
He orders 2 tiramisu. As the waiter comes to take his plates away, and he explains sort of briefly that while it's not related to dough in any real way, aside from a sort of sponge component of it, he says that this is a sort of traditional Italian dessert that's a sort of a pick me up, with a lot of coffee and caffeine and sort of chocolate on top with a sort of foam and cream.
Sage just nods, not knowing anything that he's saying, except he recognizes the word chocolate, but he can't remember what it tastes like.
The tiramisu arrives. In a traditional Italian style rather than a Western style. It arrives almost in a goblet. Not quite as sort of fancy as the word leads you to believe, but I don't know what other word to use.
Seijo kind of instinctively goes to try and drink it.
As you pick it up, it's solid in the glass. The proprietor picks up his spoon and sort of taps the inside of his glass to draw your attention to it. Then sort of picks up a spoonful himself. Roll a d12 for Seijo's reaction to caffeine. You can decide, after you roll, okay, that's a 10, you can decide whether that means he goes into a hyperactive gremlin mode or whether he doesn't really have any effect on it.
I'd say it doesn't really have any effect.
Okay. The bitterness of the slight bitter undertone in the coffee combines with the sweetness of the chocolate and neutrality of the cream. Also with the base of the sponge and perhaps a slight darker undertone that you can't quite place, which would be the alcohol. And it's a very unique flavor. You surmise that were you ever to branch out of bread and dough and bakery in general, you might take this up instead.
Well, this is great.
Enjoy then. He continues to eat his own, and you polish it also off rather quickly as well. He pays for lunch after a while, and walking back, he sort of, well, I hope this expanded your horizons somewhat.
It did. Thank you. I feel conflicted about pineapple. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. So I'm not really sure what that means.
Well, I suppose that's the best of both worlds. Or worse, I suppose, depending on what you wanted. Well, successful experiment. Now, if you'll excuse me, head on to the bakery. I will join you in a moment. He heads into a nearby store. You head back to the bakery by yourself. Also, the tiramisu healed you of any excess psychic damage. And as you head in, you see a young purple-haired woman sort of dealing with some customers. She doesn't recognize you. Once the customers go sort of, I'm sorry, would you like anything?
So, she was talking to me? So?
Yeah, she is.
Are we back at the bakery?
You are back at the bakery. You've gone in and sort of the woman that the proprietor called to sort of help her run the place while he was out is sort of taking charge in his stead. But she doesn't know you. You've never met her before, so.
I'll take some kind of chocolate things. Whatever they are.
Pan of chocolate. Very well. How many would that be?
How much money have I got?
You've got enough to buy enough bread. You don't have enough to buy the bakery, I'll put it that way.
So I've wanted like 12.
Ooh.
Buy 12.
You've probably just got enough money for 12. She
well, I'm buying 12.
She sort of raises her eyebrows and sort of, all right. Looks and sees there's only 6 on the counter. I'll have to make a few more. Do you mind waiting?
No, that's fine. I'm not in a rush.
She gives you sort of 6 and sort of takes the money for those 6 and sort of then heads into the back to make the other 6 herself, as long as some others. Do you start eating these right now, or?
Yeah, I'll start eating them and then toy
Okay.
with the idea of pineapple inside them.
Now here's the question: do you eat them standing there from the bag, getting crumbs all over the floor and in the bag, or do you head over to one of the tables that's been newly added and sit down to eat?
I'll go and sit down.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of take a bite of this pastry and sort of the chocolate is. You remember having one of these before. The chocolate is quite nice. These the first one you bite into is rather warmer and the chocolate's a bit runnier from being melted. But as you sort of get through them, it begins to be more solid due to them cooling down. You surmise that pineapple wouldn't go great with these. The texture of the pastry just doesn't lend itself well to the sort of the soft, not quite crunchiness, but the soft sort of resistance that pineapple provides. You feel as if it would rather just be like just eating them both at the same time, and not a particularly pleasant experience. Even the party that likes pineapple agrees in this case. You rather feel as though the sort of savouriness of the tomato sauce and cheese is what brought out the flavour of the pineapple for you. The proprietor comes back sort of a moment later and is carrying with him a bag of supplies. I don't have a pizza oven, but I thought we'd try and make one ourselves. Just to get things through. He sort of goes into the back and you hear sort of low talk with Fubuki, who then comes out sort of with some more pan of chocolate, including the rest of the ones you bought. Which he gives to you. They're a lot warmer than the previous ones, and you feel as if at a higher temperature, depending on Seijo's tastes, perhaps he might want his chocolate at a certain consistency. But it's up to him whether he wants it runnier or more solid.
Probably a bit on the firmer side.
Okay. Yeah, so you sort of have one of the warm ones, and then you decide to wait until the rest have cooled down.
Yeah.
The proprietor sort of motions you into the back after a moment or two, and you've sort of got your way through sort of 4 of the pan of chocolate at this point. You sort of go in there and sort of set your bag down in a sort of warm area of the room. And he sort of runs you through the steps of making dough in the Italian way. Similar to it's a very different type of dough again, as always, but it's sort of similar to flatbread, and you're rolling it out into a circle. He then shows you that what he does is he sort of folds the outside rim in on itself to sort of make it a bit firmer, and then spreads a base of tomato sauce on the dough itself before sprinkling some of the cheese on. He puts his in one of the ovens he's got back here, and and then while that's cooking, he sort of grabs some supplies for you and sort of lets you do the same. Roll 3d12.
Okay. Rolling higher.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So your first attempt is fairly average. You sort of get the rolling of the dough properly. However, folding it over for the crust you find a little fiddly. When it comes to spreading the tomato sauce and cheese on top, you find it a very sort of not the sort of thing you're used to doing, and you end up with a half tomato, half cheese pizza with sort of spots where there's no tomato and spots where there's no cheese. He it's a good first try. He sort of puts it in the oven next to his one and gives you the supplies for one last one. This is the one you rolled the 11 for then. Having had some more practice, you now find it a lot easier to focus on the thing, and you take your time meticulously adding the sauce. You don't add too much, but you make sure it's evenly distributed before then sprinkling the cheese on top to your liking. This one looks a lot more like the ones that you think that if you'd seen them cooking at the Italian place, you would have seen before they put it in the oven. He puts your one in and pulls his own out. And the smell sort of fills the back room. You know, perhaps I should start offering these on the front. He sort of hears the bell ring and sort of heads out to the front, but sort of after saying sort of, pull those 2 pizzas out after a few minutes. Sort of give to let you know how long they need to be in there for. And he goes to deal with the customers, and sort of after a sort of quiet word with Fubuki, she comes back in and sort of seeing that pizza there, sort of, well, I guess this is lunch then, and sits down and sort of begins eating it quite sort of cleanly, sort of very trying not to get any sort of waste or crumbs anywhere. After a while, you pull the pizzas out when they're ready. Your first one is there's sort of spots where there's nothing at all, and it's the dough itself is there. You surmise it would be good to eat sort of just to test the consistency of the dough itself, outside of the crust, but perhaps it's not the best pizza. However, the second one is much more evenly distributed. Your bride comes back in and sort of, let me get something for you. He goes into a sort of cupboard and comes back with a couple of sort of small cardboard boxes. I made these up myself a while back. Take them with you. They'll help you carry these pizzas back to wherever you're going.
Cute.
Sadly, they won't keep them warm, but you can always heat them up back at home.
Hey, I just had an idea.
Oh?
As he's munching on a pan of chocolate. What if you put chocolate in the pizza dough?
Fubuki chokes on her slice. The proprietor sort of looks shocked, but sort of then sort of recovers when he realizes your lack of education. Sort of, you'd have to experiment with that yourself. I know there are dessert pizzas in countries such as America. However, I know that they're not exactly the easiest thing to get right. If you wish to experiment with them yourself, then perhaps you should do so. However, I will warn you that they definitely won't go well with the cheese and tomato.
Maybe with pineapple. And
Fubuki in this case has to sort of slap herself on the back to try and dislodge what she's choking on. The proprietor sort of shakes his head, sort of, well, to each their own, I suppose. He sort of goes to sort of rest his hand on your shoulder, sort of thinks a bit over and then lowers it down. Well, take care.
Thank you for your time today. It was fun.
He nods, sort of, thank you for your patronage, and well, I look forward to seeing you again soon, although I do hope that if you do find something that goes with pineapple, I hope it goes well.
I think I'll stay clear of it for now, but maybe in the future.
Fair enough. He sort of waves you out of the shop as more customers come in. And you leave with your 2 pizza boxes and your bag of pain au chocolat.
Nice.
As you make your way back to Serete, I want you, oh god, to roll a dodge action against Yasuhide.
Me?
Yes, you.
What is that? Just a D12?
Click yourself, dodge, click Yasuhide.
Dodge. Where's Yasuhide?
He is this dude just here. Ooh.
What did I roll?
You roll, well, there's no roll to this, it's just a stat check.
Oh.
Roll d12 for luck.
Okay. Oops, that was 2, sorry.
I'll take it, you needed the boost. Yasuhide? Can you roll a d12 for, unluck, please?
Okay.
You could roll 2 D12s as well.
No, he does. I don't want him getting a high number.
Okay.
Okay, perfectly
It's a
even
tie.
here. Okay. Okay. As you're leaving, the Senkaimon, you sort of bend down to sort of put the pizzas down, pick up a pan of chocolat. As you do, you hear and feel the very essence of violence travel through the space where your head just was and into the Senkaimon. You sort of stay crouched, your hand halfway into the bag, and a moment later it sort of flies out again, screaming. Raising your head, you see Yasuhide in his Bankai form, clashing with what can only describe as a loaf of bread made of muscle, with arms, spiky hair, and a very, very long sword. Clashing with Yasuhide, laughing all the while. They sort of carry on their bout southwards at this point. And you sort of find yourself very thankful that you stopped to eat when you did.
Mm.
And your
Oh.
your pizzas are unharmed.
Good.
Yeah. You make your way back to your barracks then. Back to Nozomi. Have you made a decision?
Lightning.
Lightning, alright. Yorichi sort of nods at this sort of, alright, I can walk you through that then. She walks you, you both enter Shunko at the same time. She sort of very slowly enters a sort of semi-lightning form, where you feel her sort of begin to channel a Byakurai into her hand. But then she begins to channel a second one into her other hand, and rather than letting them go, she sort of lets the energy build up and then sort of overflow backwards up her arms, and you sense a sort of equalization of lightning energy in her arms and legs. Roll a d12 for Kido as you try to replicate this. With advantage, to be fair.
Ah.
Yeah, I realized that after you rolled the 4. Yeah, 6, I'll give you that. You struggle with it a little bit. You've done it with sort of general spiritual energy, but not with specific spells before. However, after a few minutes, you sort of... You get a good attempt. A good attempt at it. And Yorichi leads you over, deliberately walking normally, to one end of the yard. She sort of... Well, your target's over there, and she points to the other side of the yard where there's a single training dummy. Make a 2d12 combat roll, I guess. I'll just add the modifiers in my head. 10, all right. So you starting with just your fist on the you draw your you sort of take a single step towards the foe. You feel the electricity surge in your legs as you take the step, and it catapults you forwards. And you feel a speed you've never felt before, even at the height of your Ho-Oh training at this point. And before you even realize it, you're right in front of the striking dummy. You sort of dig your heels in. The lightning continues its, on what you can almost feel is inertia. And as you drive your fist forward to make a punch, all the lightning energy coalesces into your fist. And the head is blown clean off. You turn back to Yorichi across the yard, who, great. Try with your sword now, and she, sort of pats the shoulder of a dummy that wasn't there when you left. You surmise that perhaps you sort of, she or Soifo might have grabbed it while you were trying your attack. You draw your sword, making it a 2d12. Appropriate. You settle into a sort of attack that you're fairly comfortable using. and you make the same dash back again. This time the lightning seems to flow into your sword as well, and when you stop right before your opponent within perfect striking range, rather than flowing into your fist, as you begin to swing the blade, all of the energy coalesces into the metal of it, and as it strikes the opponent, there's a massive discharge of electricity, and the dummy's just obliterated. All that's left is sort of the stand it was on. Yuri sort of claps dryly and sort of, well, that's great progress for someone who only figured it out a few minutes ago. I must admit, seeing you progress this fast is quite terrifying, although I suppose, given your age, you've had a lot of time to focus on other things that many of our younger Shinigami won't have had time to do.
Well, thank you.
Anytime. Roll a d12 dodge against Yasuhide, as is tradition at this point. Or just a dodge rather, not a d12 dodge. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Should be a 10-10, I think. Both of you roll d10s. Okay. As you are about to discharge the Shunko, you feel a shadow on you, and Yorich, looking up in alarm, grabs your wrist and sort of yanks you out the way. It's fast enough that you feel your shoulder dislocate. But you're very thankful as not even less than a blink's worth of time later, after you're pulled from that location, you sense a sheer of energy crashing into the ground. Laughing. Looking back, you see the captain of the 11th Division, someone you've not really seen before, but you've felt their spiritual energy occasionally, and sort of get up from this hole in the ground and sort of jump back into the sky, only to be stopped by Yasuhide and Bankai, who then kicks him off into the distance, following him. So you're sort of having just before Seijo came back, basically. You sort of look at the coil on the ground, and sort of Yoruichi sort of apologizes and sort of sets your arm back for you with a little bit of pain, but it's not too bad. Well, I suppose Kenpachi hasn't let loose in a while. I just need to change the music back, I just realized. This one, there we go. Well, she sort of gives you a look, sort of, go ahead and keep training all this, and I look forward to seeing what you can do.
Well, I'd be happy to.
Yep. After this, as of next session, you will have Lightning Shunko, and also Hoa Mastery, or Hoa Specialist rather. Back to Shigure, because Yash is currently otherwise occupied.
Yes.
You finish up at the 12th at this point. You've got what you needed, and where are you heading next?
I mean, the closest is just the 2nd Division.
Alright, do you head over the wall, or do you head around to the front entrance?
I assume at this point there's a hole in the wall.
No, there's not a hole in the wall. What is
Okay.
that he essentially kicked him into the sky here. They
Okay.
travelled across the 12th, and then he got
In that case,
spiked into the ground.
I will probably have sensed the spiritual pressure and know that at least one of my queries are on the training grounds, right?
Yeah, you would have sensed you would have sensed the Orichin Siphon sort of doing the training. You would have sensed Nozomi's
Yeah.
spike as well.
In that case, I'm just gonna walk through the wall.
You mean walk over it because there's not a
No.
hole in the wall.
No, but I'm gonna use Nekosogi to make it possible for me to.
Ah,
pass through the
okay,
waterfall.
okay. You walk through the wall then, turning it to liquid as you go into the training ground, just as you see Nozomi on the other side. You catch her eye, and how do the two of you react to each other meeting like this?
I simply go, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, you're active early.
Well, as is usual.
Well, I hope there was no injuries, considering, well... He kind of cracks his neck. Hopefully people here are a bit more adept at evading frontal assaults than me.
It went well enough.
Well, that's good to hear. Can he see Yoruichi, like, or...
Yeah, Yorichi and Siphon are off helping the other people who are in line. Sovereign Grunt looks over to you with a sort of a look of sort of veiled disapproval at your entry method, but also vague approval at your entry method. Yorichi doesn't seem... knows you're there, but doesn't seem to be reacting otherwise. She just sort of glanced over when you walked in, and when you sort of walked through the wall and sort of went back to the others.
He will kind of, in a normal speaking tone, kind of go. First off, well, if you don't mind, I need to speak to Shihoin-sama.
Very well.
And he will then kind of walk closer to where Yorichi is in. Excuse me, Lady Shihoin. Mind giving me a few minutes?
She holds up her hand at the first syllable of your "excuse me," waits till you're finished, and then continues helping the person she's talking to. Sofa mutters under her breath something about how dare he attempt to get the attention of their Yorichi, but otherwise doesn't really react. Once she's finished, this person goes to talk to Soifone for help with wind specialization. Then she goes over to you. Sorry for the delay. What's the matter?
Well, he kind of pushes up his glasses and adjusts himself because he's still probably quite shaken from the previous encounter.
Yeah.
He'll go, well, you see, I would like to exchange some information for a favor.
I'm listening.
Well, you see, I require some goods from our fellow shopkeeper, and unfortunately I personally don't have the time nor the speed to travel back and forth as quickly as you are.
What do you need?
Well, and he will kind of mention the certain strange request of some sort of chemical compound, essentially a scientific creation of his.
What do you need that for?
Well, let's just say that if I'm going to conduct myself as nobility, I kind of need to not compromise on my ideals.
Nobility, huh? I suppose that you did give that missive to the head captain after all. He's, she sort of looks around, she lowered her voice when she said that, sort of, he has been talking to those of us of the noble clans to see what we think of the matter.
Yes. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't matter to enlighten me, at least to, well, your stance on the whole matter.
Yeah.
Oh, also, not for free, of course. And he pulls out a recently written note of the information he received from the captain of the 13th.
She takes it, but doesn't open it yet. Well, so my stance on the ability of the Shahoan clan's stuffy as all hell. I don't want to be saddled with all the responsibilities of all of that. I'd much prefer to do my own thing and just be free and whatever else. Of course, now that I've come back, they keep trying to saddle the things on me, but... well... so far, the only one who's managed to get the drop on me is... my sibling, and they don't actually care to try and foist things off on me, so I don't mind. I much prefer the Shiba way of doing things. They're so much more relaxed and carefree. Speaking of, I should go see Kukaku at some point. Anyway.
If you want, I can tell her that to expect you at some point. I have an errand in that direction as well.
I suppose if you're going around asking all the nobility for their stance on the situation, I suppose it does make sense you would be seeing her. Although reinstated after all.
Well,
even if they don't officially acknowledge the fact.
What's, as an extension then, what about your clan's duty of being a keeper of artifacts?
She sort of hand waves it. Ah, not my problem. There's people part of the family who've been training for that their entire lives, and that's all their lives amount to. I just get to play head and... well, I played head of the clan when I was head of the clan, and now I just get to do whatever the hell I want. She sort of seems very... sort of stretches cat-like at this point.
I see. Well, if possible then, if you could fulfill my request of delivering that those wares from the shopkeeper to our the 5th barracks, I would be greatly appreciating it.
She sort of looks back and sort of sees that Soiphone's sort of helping, about to go help someone else by herself. I need to get back to this, but I can go grab after this. She sort of opens the note you gave her and scans it quickly. A mischievous smile breaks out on her face. Ah, I see. This will be interesting. Well, thank you for this. She pockets the note and anything else?
No, but do please keep to annoying the ambassador until I have talked to him myself.
Of course. When should I expect you to go see him?
Well, considering my plan is to just make my way from north to south, shouldn't be too long. Towards the end of the afternoon, I should be done.
She sort of looks at the position of the sun in the sky. I think I'll go if you don't mind, I'll go annoy him after this session rather than going to Kisuke first. Now, if you don't mind.
Then.
She sort of backsteps away from you in flash step and appearing behind the person she's helping, that Soiphone's about to start helping.
Question.
Yeah?
Will his knowledge about the Kusanagi Omnyodo be helpful to the person with wind who was struggling with wind tuning?
They weren't strong with it. That was the one they were going for.
Yeah.
And Soiphone being the one with wind was that. That person's been like sorted out by now.
Okay, fair.
So yeah, to be a...
in that case, can I see the lieutenant anywhere?
No, you can't see Amida anywhere. You might want to. You could ask Soiphone if she's free after helping this person, where he might be. But otherwise, yeah.
Is there any any rank and file members of the 2nd Division around?
Yes, but you can't see them. If you want, you know where they are because of how many times you've been around the place, and you know where they sort of hang out of sight around these points. But they are there, yeah. So you could probably use one of the signals you picked up from Amida or Sophone to get the attention of one of them if you wanted.
I will probably do so.
All right. As you raise your hand to make the signal for needing their help, one of them appears before you. What is it you wish?
Could you point me to the direction of the lieutenant?
You sense a sort of flinch, but otherwise, He's otherwise engaged in matters out in the Rukon district, I believe.
Do you happen to know which side?
To the south, I believe.
Hmm.
I overheard your discussion with Yorichi-san. Shihun-san, rather. You'll probably be able to find him after your visit to the Kuchiki estate.
Well, I suppose I'll have to do it that way then.
Alright. You head south then, towards that, and where are you heading next then?
Next off would be the barracks of the first.
Okay. We'll come back to you then. Seijo.
Yeah.
You've made it back to the barracks, and having walking through the division with 2 still warm pizzas and a bag of pastries, you caught the attention of a fair few division members. Although none of them want to approach you right now because they know how into your bacon you get. You start off by warming up the pizzas, by essentially creating a piece of dough, burning it with your sword, and using that as like a sort of heat plate.
Okay.
You take your time, sort of eating the first pizza, the one that's got very unevenly distributed toppings. You take time to sort of understand the texture of the dough, the tomato sauce, and you try to taste the composition of it to some extent, and how it's made, the cheese portions, and how sort of all 3 of them work together. The second pizza, you just consume for taste alone, rather than any sort of scientific reason. You may wish to attempt to replicate it. However, as you're about to do so, you see the one of your lieutenants pop a head around the door. Ah, Komugi-san. Is that pizza I smell?
Yes.
Ah, are you trying to make your own, by any chance?
Potentially, yeah.
She sort of thinks to herself. I don't believe you have the ingredients for such a thing here. I'd be willing to get them for you in exchange for a favor.
Sure.
She sort of thinks to herself. Actually, I can't think of any favor right now. Do you mind if I hold it for later?
Pizza?
The favor, sorry. I can go get the ingredients now. It's not as though Kensei's going to miss me.
Yeah.
Woohoo! And she's just out the door immediately. Kensei you sort of hear a rumble from your captain. Mashiro! And then a sort of sad, sort of reserved word from Hisagi, sort of, it's fine, I'll take care of her paperwork again. You begin by making the dough for the pizza. It's fairly similar to your usual style of doing it. So you don't find too much issue. You decide to make 2 or 3 different things, and as you're doing so, you polish off the last of the pan au chocolat. Mashiro comes back fairly in short order, with what seems to be a few jars of tomato paste, a small bag of shredded cheese, and also some other things that she sort of puts on the side and sort of taps her nose and says, "For later." And she heads back to the paperwork she abandoned earlier. Although by this point Hisagi's done most of it already. You sort of break open the jars of tomato paste and the bag of cheese, and you sort of begin to try and make some of it. It's a slightly different consistency to the smell to the ones that you hand the world of the living, although you surmise that that's because they're made with spiritual ingredients rather than ones from the world of the living, for example. And you essentially end up creating this pizza that's almost identical to the second one that you made, although with slightly different ingredients. Roll 2d12 to see if you figure out how to cook it.
Okay.
Oof. You just said to put it to just cook it the same way you cook your regular bread.
Yeah, sounds good.
The second pizza, of your three, you now try and mix it up a bit. And you just see it you sort of have one half with more tomato and less cheese, and the other half with more cheese and less tomato. Just to see how the imbalance of ingredients can affect the flavor. By the time you're done with it, the first pizza's done, and you pull it out of the oven. It seems to not quite match the one that you had back in the world of the living. You surmise that it might have been cooked differently. Thinking back on how you cooked it, you realize that a different type of oven might be beneficial for the future, although you're not going to have much chance out here in this area at the moment. It'll be something for the future. You put the second pizza in. The first one does seem to be perfectly edible. It doesn't seem to have suffered for the difference in oven. And you get halfway through it before one of the squad members sticks their head around the door like, are you making pizza by any chance?
Yes.
Sort of seems a little bashful. They're not one of the seated officers, but you just recognize them as someone who you've seen around working around the division. Perhaps just a request from someone who's not got much authority, but if you'd be willing to, there's some of us are planning to hold a surprise party for the captain and his lieutenants at some point in the future. Would you... I know that you'd probably be making enough bread to cover it anyway, but would you be willing to make some pizzas for it?
If you can get me the ingredients, then sure.
Of course, I'm willing to do so. That sounds great. I'll talk to the others who are planning stuff, and we will tell them I got you on board. Thank you. He sort of sticks his head back round the door and then leaves you to it. But the second one's done sooner rather than later. Having more tomato than cheese seems to be a little bit of a detriment. The tomato is a good base, but by itself doesn't provide much. Whereas having more cheese, it sort of gives a sort of much, not necessarily thicker, depending how much, but maybe thicker in some areas, depending how much you applied to it. Sort of melted cheese layer over the whole pizza, which is very satisfying to eat. As you finish off the second one, Mashiro comes back in again to sort of the sort of annoyed mutterings of her lieutenant and captain. Right, got that out of the way. She pulls off the ingredients that she picked out before, the ones that she said were for later. Right then, this is something I've always wanted to try. If you'll indulge me. You notice that what she's picked up is a essentially, I'm looking at the recipe for this right now. She's picked up some chocolate and hazelnut spread, a bag of chocolate chips, some caster sugar, some marshmallows, and a small amount of vanilla extract, along with some other supplies. I've heard there are these things called dessert pizzas in certain countries in the world of the living, and I wanted to make one for myself.
Oh, I mentioned that to some baker, and they scoffed at me. So, but
Well,
I guess they didn't understand. Maybe, I don't know.
Mushroom sort of looks at him embarrassingly. I know that they're not best liked by many people, but I do have rather a sweet tooth, and well, I thought some variety might do me some good.
Pineapple's pretty sweet.
She cringes. let's not have that conversation.
Oh.
She sort of pulls up her sort of soul pager, basically her phone, and sort of helps you, sort of walks you through the instructions. You can sense that she's very excited, but she's trying her best not to be overexcitable and potentially mess something up. She helps you with the aspects that you're less familiar with. So while you do most of the sort of the bread and baking stuff, she helps you with the sort of the measuring out the sugar and the vanilla extract and the and whatnot. She sort of spreads the chocolate spread on the pizza in the same way that you spread a tomato sauce on, before then sprinkling the chocolate chips and marshmallows over the over the dish. Right, well, this won't need long in the oven. Low temperature, just needs enough for the dough to set properly. Chocolate will melt a bit, but that's fine. Right then. She puts it in. Roll a d12 for chocolate knowledge.
Chocolate knowledge, let's go. Rolling the big rolls.
You surmise that let me see. You surmise that you probably should have that you might have wanted to put the chocolate in after you cooked the dough, but you don't mind, but you're not really sure because this is the first time you're making something like this. After she goes back to her work quickly, and after washing her hands, and after enough time has passed, the pizza's ready, and the smell of as you open the oven, the smell of the chocolate just hits you, and you realize that pound of chocolate didn't quite do it justice. Masha comes back in with a plate, some napkins, and closes the door behind her, even as you see someone else looking in, sort of just to wonder what the smell is. Right, this is going to get messy. She gently cuts a slice off it before stuffing the entire thing in her mouth. There's chocolate all over her hands and face. And it's almost a full 2 minutes before she's able to say anything for want of trying to eat this essentially slice of dough covered in enough melted chocolate to keep her sweet tooth satiated for almost an entire week. She's sort of, oh, that is okay. She reached for a second slice before she sort of, oof, I hit that too fast. Never mind. You may wish to try a slice for yourself if you want.
Okay. There's a roll for that.
If you want to. You can roll for how much you like it, and then do you like or dislike it?
I dislike it. Probably because
Mm-hmm.
I put the chocolate in too soon.
Okay. You take a small bite. The dough is there. That's very normal. However, whatever it gives to the dish is overwhelmed by by just the obscene amount of melted chocolate you've achieved in this bite. There's the chocolate spread and the chocolate chips, and they've just melded together to essentially create 2 or 3 different types of chocolate, all warring with each other for supremacy. None of them are coming out on top.
This almost feels too chocolatey.
Yeah, you cut off the part that you bit, so that there's the slices essentially smaller. You sort of choose to eat the rest of it. You might choose to eat the rest of it just to sort of get a sort of second opinion again of yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. You definitely agree that the chocolate's far too melted. You might surmise that you might have wanted to cook the raw dough itself before then putting the chocolate on top and allowing the warmth of the dough to naturally melt it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Mashiro sort of, oh, well, more for me then. She tries to clean her hands and face, but does a terrible job of it, gives up, just picks up the plate, opens the door with her foot, walks out, takes it into the lieutenant's office, and you just hear a groan from the captain as he realizes what's about to happen. Yeah, your experiment's a success. As of the next time you summon your minions, they will have pizza on them.
Oh, nice.
No pineapple, though.
That's fine. Maybe it's a debuff.
God. Command pineapple. You can give your minion a pineapple to cause it to take damage over time. It gives you no benefit, it's just funny.
Unless it causes disdain in my enemies and demoralizes them.
It should probably make the enemy more likely to attack them.
Yeah, that would work actually. Yeah, it essentially gives your minions a provoke status. In exchange, you then can't give them HP because they've been disconnected from you due to the pineapple's influence.
Oh my god has abandoned them.
Your god has abandoned your minion, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great power to come up on the spot. That's good. I like that. Back to Nozomi then. Is there anything else you wish to do with your time now that you've achieved your immediate goal of Shunko at the moment?
Should probably just go back and read.
Fair enough. As you head back to your division to read then, where is my page of stuff and things? History and setting. I think it's Rose for the third. It is Rose, yes. Rojiro Toribashi. And Kira. Kira sort of nods to you as you go back and sort of... Rose puts his hand out, sort of... Zeka-san, may I have a word?
Oh, by all means.
Thank you. He motions you into his office, and Kira, after a moment, decides to join him. In regards to your action to your progress thus far in gaining strength, recently achieving Bankai and other things, Kira and I have been discussing the possible promotion to a seated position within the division.
Ah.
It would come with more responsibilities, of course, but I believe that such effort shouldn't go unrewarded. What say you? You don't need to think about it. You don't need to answer right now, of course, if you wish to go away and think about it.
Well, I don't necessarily think that a promotion would be needed. I'm quite happy as things are. However, if I would serve better in such a role, then I wouldn't protest necessarily.
That's understandable. He sort of thinks the captain sort of thinks for a moment. Well, most of the seated officers don't need to help with the paperwork much beyond if the captain or lieutenant gets sick. However, they do have a lot more to do with inter-squad communication, especially more recently as recent things have been happening. And on top of that, he sort of thinks for a moment, in the event of specific missions being laid out, they're usually recommended beyond unseated officers, even if said unseated officers are more in line with them. If you wish it to be so, I could promote you to such a position as essentially just as a ceremonial thing, but it would give you more of a rank within the Serite itself and perhaps allow you to find more interesting opportunities elsewhere.
Hmm. Well, I do feel quite satisfied with my position as it is, really.
That's alright then. Yeah. Were you saying something else? Sorry, I just realised.
No?
He sort of thinks, well, if you do change your mind, it's always there. However, even from an unseated position, you have my recommendation for anything you may wish to do. As long as you run it by me first to make sure I would indeed recommend it.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's everything from you. Do you have any questions for us?
Hmm. I wouldn't really say so.
Alright then. Take care of yourself and good luck with your training.
She smiles gently. Likewise.
Both of them sort of bow gently to you, and then Rose goes back to his paperwork, and Kira sort of leaves the room again to go off and do something else. You spend some time just going over the information you've learned today, doing some light practice of sort of letting the key to go through your arms and then releasing it, and sort of letting the lightning build and releasing it, and doing all those sorts of things. You spend some time reading as well. You occasionally hear a crash from outside. You surmise that this is more of the fight between Yasha and Kenpachi again. Seiji would also have heard the same thing about as well, once or twice more throughout the day. Back.
It's probably not paying attention to it. to be
Yeah,
honest.
that's fair. Back to Shigure then. You are heading south. Which way?
Yes,
Who are you talking to next?
Well, if we assume that in the time between there, I had an exchange with the first lieutenant first.
Yep, you would have had that.
Yes, in that case, at this point, my next target would be actually heading past the ninth, all the way back to the area within the fifth domain.
To talk to who?
Particularly the former state of the Tsunami clan.
Ah, I see.
So I would probably have passed the pizza baking and noticed the aroma of that.
You would have noticed the aroma of tomato, yes, and or chocolate, depending on, or both, depending on when you did it. Yeah. So head towards the Tsunami estate then.
Yes.
Upon knocking, you're greeted with one of the servants who sort of, I must admit, I believe we were expecting you, given what we've heard today. Please come inside.
He would give a very respectful bow and enter.
Yeah.
Carrying a basket with a cloth over it.
Okay. You find Matsuri inside, working on her calligraphy. She looks up at you. Long time no see, Kiyomitsu-san.
Same to you, Miss Kuro.
How have things
He
been?
will politely sit down and put the basket in front of him.
How have things been with you? She she finishes her carriage and puts the calligraphy brush away.
Well, I suppose that, well, Okay, before I continue, I need to establish what is canon here. Is the
I've not
male or
finished the
female
game.
Yes, but is male or female canon?
I'm trying to remember what you mean. That's why I said Matsuri.
Which twin is the canonical player?
Matsuri.
Okay,
That's what I chose.
gotcha. Well, I suppose you, if anybody, would be aware of suddenly being thrown as an non-lieutenant officer into Aranka-related affairs.
Ugh, don't remind me. It's thankfully been a long time since that.
Well, it took me a while to find these, but hopefully these will remind you and your brother about the positivity of that time. And he will remove the cloth from the basket and reveal apples that are usually from a very difficult place to acquire in Serete.
Oh. How much effort did you go to get these? She sort of reaches out for one and picks it up.
I merely called in some favors when the Fifth was out of control.
She sort of looks at you. I'm assuming you want something in exchange?
Yes, two things as a matter of fact. One being, well, due to my plans, I need to acquire a bouquet of a certain type of flowers. Flowers that have become quite a favorite by members of the 4th Division.
She sort of thinks for a moment, then sort of... Ah, I see where this is going. Well, I'm assuming just the one?
Yes. As much as late Unohana was very fond of the flowers your well, Mistress Konoka tended to, it would seem that enjoyment has spread throughout the rest of the division over there as well.
I see. Well, by all means take your pick. Before you go, and she bites into one of the apples, and after swallowing the bite, sort of, I heard that, I heard that you wish to reinstate your clan's nobility.
Yes. And on that topic, I would mind yours, and I'm not aware of if Fujimaru is around, but at least yours opinion in regards as a fellow member of a fallen clan, but akin to me, I suppose. While I do have blood ties, I never really knew any members of the clan properly.
If you hadn't got me these apples, I'd kick you out right now. She takes another bite. It's difficult. There are days I feel as though I'm not deserving of the role. I mean, I was hardly brought up as a member of the Suzanami. But then again, she sort of tilts her head the other way. I suppose there's no one else to carry it on, and without me here, the line would have ended. Better to carry it on in some way than not at all, I believe is the best way to put it.
Well, I suppose my situation is similar, as while I do wish to take on the responsibility that comes with the title, I too grew up in the Rukon district. And unlike you and your brother, I wasn't as fortunate to have even, well, some sort of figure to look up to in the first place. Though I suppose that, well, you only had a very short amount of time, of course, but, well, I never got any contact with the actual nobility parts of my family. But that's also why I believe it's an important thing to not let get lost. And as such, I have an offer potentially.
What would that be?
Well, as much glory as the Tsunami clan has held, it has, despite its privilege of its estate, has lost any other position of power, hasn't it? Since, well, the incident.
I suppose so, yes.
Well, I'm well aware of how skilled both you and your brother are in the arts of Kido after being thrust into the circumstances.
Something like that.
As such, if my request does succeed and the Kiyomitsu household can raise to nobility, while it would of course be a symbolical step down, I wouldn't mind taking on the, rather than the Tsunami clan, the Kudo family as an aid.
She sort of pauses and... I'd have to think about that, I'm afraid. While I appreciate the offer, you do ask a lot.
Of course.
Thank you. Now then.
And he will then kind of stand up to leave, give a bow, and he will then lastly go and say, by the way, during our training to achieve Bankai recently, we were in Wakamundo to do so. While I am not sure of the exact location where it happened nor exactly what his thoughts would be, I made sure to pay my respect to Captain Sagan.
Thank you.
I am, after all, a member of his former division.
She nods and sort of bites into the apple again. Thank you again for these. Although, I'd prefer not to continue this discussion much longer if that's alright with you. It's hard enough dealing with the memories of the past on any given day, but otherwise.
He will give a nod and head out.
You got the flower as well?
Yes.
Alright.
And he will then probably head through the academy grounds to the Kuchiki Manor.
Alright. As you make your way past the academy buildings, roughly here. Roll dodge against Yasha.
Can I try to perceive that it's incoming?
D12, yeah. You sense the faintest whisper of violence from somewhere in the air above you.
I will immediately back off, but as I'm backing off, I'm also, just to make sure for safety, I will also use a full incantation Danku.
Above you?
Diagonally above and so like if you imagine, I'm moving away from the point where I sensed it.
Yeah.
And I'm erecting it like diagonally so that it blocks towards the impact point of that and upwards
Okay.
at the same time.
So you sense it from behind you, like this, not from like this point, but this direction basically. You're facing this way right now. So you walk forwards towards the lake while erecting it behind you. There's a thud as Yasuhide is kicked into the Danku. He then kicks off it, and you hear and you look back up to see a clash of blades between him and Kenpachi. Kenpachi then proceeds to kick Yasha into the Danku, who then kicks off the Danku, and he essentially ping-pongs him back and forth a few times before getting bored and backhanding him instead of punching him, flinging him to the side. Yasuhide sort of flies through the air towards this direction. Kenpachi goes to land a strike, only to be countered and kicked back by Yasuhide. Kenpachi is now flying towards you.
I will cancel the Danku from before, and I will try to use the. I will essentially jump into the lake.
As you jump into the lake, at the height of your jump, Kenpachi lands behind you. The shockwave from his landing, the force of Yasha's attacks being so strong now compared to Kenpachi's own for some reason, launches you clean over the lake to the other side. As you're coming up to land, however, you see Kenpachi thrown sort of a spray of water as he lands in the ground beneath you. Surmise that Yasha landed on this side of the lake, grabbed Kenpachi, and threw him essentially across the surface of the water, all the way to the other side of the lake. As you're coming up to land, you see Yasha going for an attack, but looking up and seeing you, how does he react?
He will probably is there any way to keep the attack at the same level of strength with and still adjust it, or is that impossible?
You've committed to this attack at the moment.
In
basically.
that case, he will probably just go through with it at that point.
All right. So Yasha looks up as he's essentially about to launch Kenpachi skywards into you. You having no Ho-Oh training beyond the absolute basics, are powerless to do anything as Kenpachi is blasted into your back. You end up flying at a speed that would be terrifying to you.
I will, mid-air as I'm flying, Shigure, I will activate Tekoi to brace myself.
That was which one again?
The last one.
Okay, let me check just to remember. Okay, so you're essentially bowing head over heels through the air. You just hold your fists in front of yourself, and use Tekoi to try and harden your limbs with spiritual harden the substance of spiritual energy to try and lessen your impact. You feel a crash as you go through a wall, and you crash into someone else. When you get to your feet, you are greeted by, once again, Yorichi Shihoin, dazed on the ground in front of you, and Byakuya standing over her with a very conflicted expression on his face, with a ribbon in his hand. Yorichi looks at you and says, "No, you made me lose." I mean, when Byakuya just looks at us, "Kiyomitsu-san, I assume you did not intend to break the wall of my estate."
No, that would be your old... and he says this with noticeable sarcasm. Pal, Captain Saraki.
At this point,
giving a nod to the outside.
yeah, at this point, Byakuya looks up, seeing Zaraki sort of about to be knocked into the ground by Yasuhide, and sort of like, I see. I will bill him for the damages this time, once again. So what do I owe the pleasure of your visit, regardless? Assuming you intend to heal yourself anyway.
First off, he would kind of brush himself up and make him slightly more presentable.
Yeah. As he's doing so, Yorichi climbs to her feet and tries to snatch the ribbon out of Byakuya's hand, but he sort of backsteps and sort of shakes his head. No, Shihoin-san. I won this back. This time, it is mine. And she pouts. Anyway.
He will go. Shiguro will then kind of. I suppose this is not the most convenient place to hold a discussion.
It will serve.
Well, in that case, I suppose we might as well use this. And he will walk up to one of the walls in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And open it.
I'm assuming the Byakuya doesn't know it's supposed to be openable.
Yes.
You find the captain of the 4th Division on the other side. Alongside the lieutenant of the 1st, Stella and Arvin, your sister, and Lieutenant what was it? I've forgotten her name already. Moth.
I do not know who you're referring to.
That was it. Yashiro, sorry. You find Yashiro there. After a moment, you hear sort of, pardon us, from out of sight, and you surmise that the captain of the 8th is there as well. Do you turn back to see Byakuya's expression at this or not?
Shiguro will first off just go, pardon the intrusion, wrong room. Close the wall and then go to the next wall, like a couple of meters down where he knows that there is another one.
In this one, you find the captain of the 8th and Yaya who sort of look at you and say, "Wrong room again."
He will close that one and go to the one opposite this time.
It's empty.
He will step aside to let Byakuya enter.
Byakuya shoots a very cold look at Yorichi Shihoin, who sort of shrugs. And while he enters the other room, she goes to the initial door, opens it. It now appears to be empty. Climbs in, and just as she closes it, you can hear her say, "I guess we'll have to move our premises again." Byakuya sort of, once the door's closed, sort of like, "I do wish the Shingai Women's Association would stop creating secret corridors within my house."
Shiguro would also go kind of, before Byakuya comes back out, he would go to Yorichi. I thought the meeting was tomorrow.
Oh god. She sort of whispers back, "We moved it up because of your whole nobility thing. You've been asking too many questions."
He will go, well, that does make sense.
She sort of shoos you away in that case, and then back in the main room, she sort of, Byakuya's just, "I wish they would stop creating rooms in the back rooms of my estate."
Well, and I assume this room is the one that no one else is in right now. So.
Yeah, there's nobody else in here. There is, however, a leftover bag of sweets from what appears to be several years ago, marked with Lieutenant Kusajishi's signature. Do not touch.
As he's walking in himself, Shiguro will kind of make sure his gloves are on properly and put it in a vacuum sealed bag for safekeeping.
Byakuya makes no remark, but appreciates the gesture nonetheless. It is a 30-year-old bag of sweets after all.
Yes. Is Euricia still here, or has she left?
She went into the first room, like as you
Okay.
went into this room.
Okay. In that case, he will now go. Well, first off, I was here to, of course, discuss a bit of a favor and a bit of an exchange, you could say. But of course, I don't intend to come empty-handed. And you might have, considering your reaction just now, have use for this. And he hands a map of his estate with clearly marked outlines of all the hidden corridors.
He sort of looks it over. I suppose since Lieutenant Kusujishi's resignation, so to speak, they haven't been quite as able to create these corridors as they used to be. How they kept them hidden for so long is a matter I have no desire to find out the reasoning for.
Well, let's just say that a lot of bottles lost their lives in order to acquire this data.
I shall see to it that the head captain has no chance to drink them. He rolls up the map and puts it in his in one of his pockets. My thanks. What do you wish in exchange for this?
Well, first off, I have the need of some of the Kuchi clan's provided fabrics, fine as possible.
To what end?
Decoration.
To what end?
He will go. The potential debate of sealing as a pact.
His face softens slightly. For what reason do you seek this pact?
Well, considering the state of things, we might be in peacetime, but it's better to get things done as soon as possible rather than regret it afterwards.
And does this have anything to do with your recent application to reinstate your own nobility?
Only at the level of better get things done rather than left them unresolved.
He sighs very deeply. Well, I shall not press for details, but I shall hope that your Hisana lasts longer than mine did. He is very quiet at this.
Well, I do hope so too. But at the same time, I shall also... Well, I would like to state my intentions in regards to that other topic.
Go ahead.
I have already mentioned it to the captain of the 13th, but as you know, the Kiyomitsu clan of all was meant as a sort of divination corps and strategical guidance to the Gote specifically. I intend to change the role the Kiyomitsu clan plays.
To what end?
Well, while no offense meant, but you might not have experienced the life of the Rukon districts. I suppose you are close enough connected to them to understand the dire situation some people out there live under.
Sana and my sister both told me the stories.
Yes. As far as I understand it, to you, nobility is meant to be a leading light, a beacon of a beacon to uphold, sort of.
Correct.
To me, as limited as it is, my opinion and the reason for my wish to reinstate my clan is I see nobility as a responsibility rather than just a duty. I
What would
see
you
it
have your
as
responsibilities be?
to help those who merely needs the means to an end rather than those who are shunned by the system. Well, as far as you understand, as you've been aware, I believe, the entrance to the Shinigami Academy is quite all-encompassing. There are multiple factors that are required for one to become a Shinigami.
Yes.
However, due to your close proximity to the Academy, I suppose you're also aware that there are those who are skilled in one field but not the other.
Yes. Such people do not often make it through the academy unless they have exceptional talent in that area.
Exactly. As such, considering the whole modus operandi of the Kiyomitsu clan's arts, on the other hand, they aren't capable of destruction in the same sense as Shinigami abilities usually are. As such, I wish to work alongside the Kido Corp and the Academy to form a sort of parallel path. A way to teach those of the Rukon districts who aren't fully capable of becoming Shinigami to, at least if they are capable in Kido, learn to defend themselves. And more importantly, and he will lock eyes with Byakuya on this, protect their families.
He pinches the bridge of his nose and sort of, well, if you didn't have my support before, you do now.
I believe this is a role that specifically the Kiyomitsu clan is uniquely capable of filling. And that's why I see it as a responsibility to make sure it's done.
You will have my support in this matter, should you need to fight your corner. I trust that you have my sisters as well.
She stated as much, yes.
Good. Right. I'd better find someone who's willing to fill in all these holes in my walls. If you could leave them
I
to...
believe I can pull some strings in regards to that.
What do you want out of it?
Nothing in particular. Merely, well, considering my plans, if this all goes through, a letter of recommendation to the Academy would be very suitable.
I see. I shall pen one once I have the space to do so. He opens the secret door and sort of takes a moment to sort of look around the room and marvel at its construction and how little leeway there is for it to fit between the walls of his house. Look at the door itself and sort of tries to sort of see how it opens, and then sort of shakes his head in exasperation and goes looking for something. Before
At this
we
point,
yeah?
Kimitsu will likely take his leave.
Before we finish off Kiyomitsu's line, does anyone of Nozomi or Seijo want anything else to do for today?
I do not.
Likewise.
Okay. In that case, Shigure, you make your way south out of Serete.
And I will then head southwest, both looking for Lieutenant Omaida, as well as making my way to the Shiba estate.
You find him leaving the Shiba estate.
Hmm?
Yeah, as you arrive there, he's just like coming out of the doorway.
I will kind of greet him. Less formal than all the other people Shiguro has met today.
Yep.
Ah, Mauricio, I was just looking for you earlier.
Ah, Shigure. What were you looking for me for?
Well, and he will kind of push up his glasses in this to hide his eyes. You remember that favor I did for you a while back? The permissions to expand your family's hot springs.
I remember. What do you want now?
Well, I'd like to cash in on that favor.
Cash in, huh? How much are we looking at?
Well, just enough to afford some of the most delectable of meals in the first and second district of Rukon,
Is that all?
as well as enough to provide for some fireworks from the Shiba clan, which I assume is similar to your errand as you were, well, here.
I just put it in order myself.
Yes, and if you would deem it suitable, perhaps to ensure future support when it comes to building codes, you know, they are not easily acquired. It would so happen that I require some funds to be sent to the Kuchiki Manor in order to pay for the repair of a certain wall.
That's nothing. Let's head back inside Kukaku's place. I'll get you these fireworks sorted out. He turns around
Trustworthy
and
as always.
yeah. Until you head inside to find Kukaku in her usual place, drinking sake. She sort of cracks one eye open at the footsteps, sort of, what are you doing back? And then she sees you. Ah, you. So what do I owe the pleasure of your visit?
Well, first off, of course, I believe I also had the need of some fireworks.
Glad to see business is going well for us. Alright.
Particularly of this design, and he hands over a note of specific designs for the fireworks.
She looks it over, raising her eyebrows at the specifics, looks up and just says, and who the hell are you proposing to?
He will kind of brush it aside and change the subject by going, well, let's leave that up to our imagination, shall we? And there is another favor I'd like to ask.
She sort of narrows her eyes.
Rather than asking for a favor, I'd merely like to showcase the value of the Kiyomitsu family's proficiencies.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, I would like to merely garner some support for the future.
It'll cost you. What do you want?
Well, I happen to have been overlooking some of your designs. And he pulls out a sizable notepad. I've been using my skill with both Bakudo and, of course, my family's Kiyomitsu art in order to pinpoint some refinements that could improve the efficiency of course, your fireworks to some extent, but primarily your, let's just say, side business.
Hmm.
And he will particularly point out stuff like how, by applying similar structures as his own, having now discovered it, Nekosogi art, how that could enhance, for example, the Shiba clan's Sepp and Banka and stuff.
She thinks it all over, putting her bowl of sake aside. This is interesting. Honestly, for this alone, I'd recommend you for nobility if it wasn't for the fact you'd already applied. Forget the payment. I was going to push the topic from before, but it seems as though this is payment enough.
Well, in that case, I will gratefully receive.
Alright. You! And she points to the Maida with her arm. I guess you're paying for the fireworks since you came back in here? And he's just nods stuff like, yep, that's it. Fine. See what I can do with what I've got. And Amida sort of nods and Kakako's like, well, I'm sure you've got more errands to run, so you can head off now. I'll get this sorted out with Amida. I know he's got more to do for you as well, but I'm sure he can figure that out himself. And she sort of screams into the back, "Hey, Ganju!" And he sort of her siblings sort of stick his head out. Yeah? More fireworks. And she sort of throws the piece of paper at him. He
Question. Can I try to perceive if there is any danger incoming from Seirete at this point?
How so?
I mean, Ishiguro at this point has become quite familiar with the dangers that are going around the Soul Society today.
Oh right. Oh, there isn't. You'll find out in the Rukon district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before he bows and thanks for the exchange, he will also turn to Amida and say, by the way, I would utilize your skill as a member of the Nitsukido once you reach Seirete. There is quite a lot of danger today.
No.
And he will then head off the premise and back to the Seirete.
As you pass the southern gate, you enter the Seirete. At this point, you are very familiar with what's about to happen next.
He's very keenly aware about it, yes.
Looking to your right, you see, Yasha and Kenpachi no longer flying through the air, but simply standing in a back alley, facing each other, panting. Their swords low, tips nearly touching the ground. They seem to be almost exhausted from today's excursion, but they still seem to be wanting to fight each other. How do you react to this scene at all, or do you simply keep walking?
Seeing as they are currently kind of in a bit of a deadlock, I will make my way onto a roof that is sufficiently high above them.
Okay. Well, they're currently, like, for example, like in this alleyway just here or something.
Yes.
So you probably want to head to, like, this corner building here or something.
And in order to let them enjoy themselves a bit longer, I will activate my Shikai in the acceleration mode.
Okay, so you're within range of them. Okay, never mind. So you're like a bit closer than that. Okay. So
Yeah, that's
meanwhile,
considered above them.
yeah. Okay, so meanwhile, I think above isn't like just like above like a high roof nearby. So meanwhile, from Yasha's POV, you've been fighting Kenpachi for the entire day so far. He's only recently started seeming to get tired. And you found yourself in this small alleyway, panting, almost wanting to just throw down your swords and just punch each other until you both end up in the fourth. Kenpachi sort of grins. It's been a long time since I've had a fight like this.
Yes, we'll kind of go. Well, I can certainly see how someone of your caliber was a match for Captain Kuroyashi.
Yeah. I don't think you were there for that, were you? Well, he sort of flicks his blade to the side to sort of flick off any of the excess blood, but oh, it doesn't move. You want to keep going with this?
Yasha will kind of spit out a bit of blood and go with a grin, kind of go, well, isn't a monster backed into a corner the most interesting to hunt?
If you say so. As he goes to raise his blade to attack, the rain begins to rise. Yasha, you know what this is. Kenpachi doesn't. How does Yasha react? Kenpachi just stops for a second as he realizes what this is. Well, as he realizes that it's there.
Yasha will kind of go, it would seem refreshments are suitable for the half-time point.
Kenpachi...
And he will take in the boost and then continue.
Yeah. Kenpachi seeing Yasha do this will do the same. So, that's the stuff. And then the fight continues. I'm assuming there's the moment that the property damage begins. Shigure will leave again.
He will indeed leave again and kind of just say, kind of, as he does, he will jump off the roof and saying, rest in peace, Ayasagawa.
God. You make your way back to your own division's barracks then. As you pass the Kido Core building, however, you see Tessai coming out in his World of the Living garb and starts making his way over to the Senkaimon.
Not your usual stomping ground.
Kimitsu. He sort of scratched the back of his head. Well, I was visiting an old friend. Don't worry too much about it. That said old friend did tell me about your current plans with the Rukon district.
Yes.
Much as I hold no power here anymore, I would do my best to help you if I was able to.
Well, as a matter of fact, I suppose your knowledge about leading the Kido Corps once would be quite useful experience to hear about next time we have tea.
Of course. Speaking of, how's your Kido been?
Shiguri will kind of go, well, and he will kind of essentially do like an inverse charge and then hold out his hand to Tessai to shake.
Tessai goes to take it very slowly.
Upon touching, he will utilize Shinto to showcase how relatively high his spiritual power still is.
That's the
despite
equalizer, right?
the- Yes.
I see. Perhaps next time we have tea, we should also see how far we can push that.
Would be my pleasure.
Well then, I've got some things to take care of in the world of the living, but within the next few days I should be back. I'm sure that the cave under Sokyoku Hill should be free if no one's using it for Bankai at the moment.
Sounds like a suitable location indeed, yes.
Very well, I look forward to it. He bids you farewell and heads into the Senkaimon. I'm not going
on my
to...
way
Yeah?
On my way back, I will drop by the night to see how the pizza endeavor is going.
You get hit with the smell of melted chocolate. How do you react upon this wall of sensation?
Let me roll something.
Do it. Can you physically walk any further?
Okay. It would seem that Shigure he is not super fond of super spicy. He's not super fond of very sweet. He's not super fond of very bitter either. He's more of a sour type person.
Okay. So he's a pineapple on pizza enjoyer.
No, but he's the kind of person who likes things with lemon in them.
He's a lemon on pizza enjoyer.
Not exactly.
I'm sorry, I had to.
He likes acidity.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you
So the overwhelming sweetness would be a bit much for him.
Okay, you bounce off the wall of smell in front of you and sort of just keep making your way away. I'm not gonna do a thing for it, but assume that between the end of this session and the start of the next one in 2 weeks that you have this spar with him and you gain Kido specialist.
Okay.
From the experience that you gain from that. We get back to Yasha. The battle continues long into the night. Unsurprisingly. Although by sunrise, it has devolved into just throwing punches at each other in the 11th Division courtyard. What members of the squad were there when the two of you crashed back to Earth, cheered, but then many have since gone to sleep, saying that it's just a slugfest by this point. The two of you so out of energy. Your Bankai eventually just drops itself from the SP drain just being too much for you to handle with your wounds. Once it does, Kenpachi... That it? He doesn't seem to be disappointed, just wondering whether you're ready to stop yet.
Yes, at this point, we'll go. We'll like painstakingly stand up again. Make his way back to his feet and say, "Why would I quit? When we're just getting to the most fun part." And he will burn all his remaining Hajikari to refill his spiritual reserves.
One last strike then, as is tradition. Kenpachi puts both hands on his sword for the first time in the fight. Shall we?
Yasha will use this opponent, probably having stacked up enough at this point to activate all 4 marbles to prepare for this assault.
Mm-hmm.
At any point. And take a stance.
Roll a Zanjitsu attack against yourself. And I'll roll one against you for you as well. because you both have 10 Zanjutsu and the same level of other stuff. You have a high hit rate, alright. You both make the strike at the same time. The force from it blowing the roof off the division, much to your opponent's future annoyance and the cheers and sighs from what remaining members of the division there are around here to watch this. Ikako and Yumichika arrived a few minutes ago, not having seen the destruction around Serete in general, but they just both face palm as they see the roof fly off. You both stand there, having dashed past each other, backs facing each other instead, looking away, blades out. You feel a cut across your midriff, and you instinctively plant the blade of your sword into the ground and hold your arm over the cut to try and hold it in. At the same time, however, Kenpachi feels the strike from hip to shoulder, and with a grunt, "Ugh, good one," he falls forward and passes out. Now you have Zanjutsu Specialist.
Yasha will kind of go cancel out his bunk at this point and just fall onto his back from exhaustion.
Ikaku sort of goes over to the captain and just sort of picks him up in one arm and carries him off to the... sort of starts carrying him off to the fourth, while Yumichi goes over to you and sort of like... Well, as unbeautiful as the destruction was, I'm sure the fight itself was quite the sight.
Yasha will, with a slight kind of grin while his body is essentially just completely like a wet noodle, go, well, neither did I expect to enjoy it as much, nor did I expect to last as long.
Well, if you surpassed your own expectations as well as everybody else's, I'm sure that's a success. Now let's get you to the fourth before anyone starts complaining.
And before he kind of essentially just passes out at this point, he'll go, next time we'll go for 2 days.
Best of luck with that one. You've all done some training. You've all received what will essentially be your final upgrades. Seijo does not have a specialist skill at the moment. Hakuda specialist is relating to Battle High, which is a feature you don't have access to due to your lack of SP. If you wish for another one, I'm willing to give it to you, but you've got 2 weeks to think it over. If you want Hakuda specialist, but you want to think up something unique for Seijo, I can try and come up with that instead. And
Actually, that's under passives.
Yep. Yep. It's under specialist passives, I think. Let me check which page.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Also, on that regard, you might need to homebrew something for Shigure because half of the Kido expertise he already has.
The Kido expertise, I think I already did.
Okay.
Where he gains extra if all extra effects are accessible, cost of all spells reduced by 1 tier.
Okay.
Like that was built in from the start because I knew you would go for that.
Perfect.
Right. Well,
Perfect.
with everyone now at the start of next session being level 10 with 2 passive slots to fill, stats can be reallocated. Old passive slots can be respent. Expertise passives will be given. You'll be at the peak of your power for the final collection sessions in 2 weeks. And that is where I end this one.